This podcast is a collaboration between TBN Israel and the GPO, the Government Press Office of Israel, and it's sponsored by Leket Israel, which is our sponsor for today. They're making a difference in this land, and we'll tell you how later in this podcast. We're recording this at a very fragile moment for Israel. A senior security official said it clearly in the last 24 hours, Israel is standing at a decisive security crossroads. 6 arenas, all at the same time, Gaza, Lebanon, Iran, Syria, Yemen, and Judea and Samaria, and every one of them can explode at any moment. Let's start with Gaza. Hamas was hit very hard, but it has not disappeared. Israeli intelligence estimates that tens of thousands of terrorists are still active, with hundreds of rockets that can still be launched. The message from Israel's security establishment is very simple. The work in Gaza is not finished. Israel is determined to prevent Hamas from rebuilding itself as a military or political power, and that may require another round of force. On the northern front, in Lebanon, we are probably looking at the next central arena. Hezbollah is weaker than it was a year ago, but far from defeated. We're talking about tens of thousands of fighters and an arsenal that has been reduced to under 10,000 rockets, only a small part of them precise. In Jerusalem, many see this as an historic opportunity to finally disarm Hezbollah. If the Lebanese government doesn't do it, Israel is signaling that it may have to do it itself. The targeted killings of Hezbollah's military chief in Beirut, Haytham Ali Tabtabi, is presented as only the beginning of this story, not the end. And at the same time, there is huge diplomatic pressure around one small piece of metal. During that same strike in Beirut, an advanced American JBU-39 smart bomb did not explode and was found underground. The United States is now demanding that Lebanon return the weapon, afraid that its sensitive technology could end up in the hands of Hezbollah, Iran, or even Russia. And inside Lebanon, this is already creating a political storm between those who want to cooperate with Washington and Hezbollah, who will try to turn it into another sovereignty crisis. While the world is looking at Gaza and Lebanon, Iran is moving forward quietly. Its ballistic missile program is advancing fast. The gaps are closing, and Israeli officials are openly talking about the need for another operation to stop Iran from becoming an existential threat, not just a regional problem. In Syria, we see a dangerous vacuum. Key figures like El-Julani are targeted by rivals, and into this vacuum steps extremists from ISIS and Hamas-linked groups. If the Syrian front collapses, Israel may be forced to move from passive along the border to active operations inside the Syrian territory. Many in the security system say that the next explosion there is only a matter of time. In Yemen, Israel is satisfied with a series of recent operations, including the elimination of top Houthi leaders like the chief of staff and the defense minister. But the Houthis openly say that they draw inspiration from October 7th. The physical distance is 2,000 kilometers, but in security terms, Israel now treats it as 2 kilometers away from us. That means more focus on the Red Sea and beyond. And finally, the arena that keeps Israeli officials awake at night, Judea and Samaria, the so-called West Bank. A senior official admitted, "We are not strong enough in that location, intelligence-wise. Dangerous weapons are flowing in. Terror cells are getting more confident and professional, and the system is preparing for the possibility of an October 7th style surprise attack from that area, even if on a smaller scale than the Gaza Strip." Terror groups understand that small isolated attacks with knives or cars will not achieve their goals, so they are now training and planning for bigger coordinated attacks. These are the 6 fronts, 6 friction points. All at the same time, Israel is standing on a regional fault line, and the decisions that are made now will shape the next years in the entire Middle East. So I'm Yair Pinto from TBN Israel, and this is your situation report from the ground here on Israel. Let's begin.
Thank you, Yair, for the update. My name is Karen Goldstein, and if you're watching or listening to this, you probably already know this kind of report from Boots on the Ground, TBN Israel's daily news from the front lines. Today we're doing something special. We are here at the Israel Government Press Office in Jerusalem, and I'm honored to host two people who have become a voice for Israel to millions of viewers around the world. Mati Shoshani, senior Middle East host on TBN Israel, and Yair Pinto, IDF reservist, combat soldier who fought in Lebanon, Gaza, and the face of Boots on the Ground. Over the last 2 years, TBN Israel, through Mati and Yair, has reported daily from Israel's borders, often under fire, exposed terror groups like Hamas and Hezbollah and their connection to Iran, built a global audience of Bible-believing Christians who want to hear what is really happening in Israel, not just what they see on hostile news channels, and fought a constant battle against fake news, blood libels, and anti-Semitic narratives in the media.
Thank you for this introduction.
And that's
I didn't know we were doing all these things. This is better than I would have said it.
And that's exactly what we want to talk about today, because lately it feels like everything gets blamed on Israel, even things that have nothing to do with us. And I've just got back from London and South Africa, and in every single news headline, you see the word Israel or Gaza. And so
It's always paired by negative verbiage after that.
Exactly.
I want to just correct one thing you said, which is that in a way that's surprising to us, the viewers are not just Christians and Bible reading. Some of them are Christians who don't read the Bible. That's a joke. And many of them, by the way, are Orthodox Jews around the world and in Israel.
Yes.
A very large portion of the people that come up to us, I think, are unaware of the faith element of it.
Yeah, but they like the
oblivious.
fact that we're sharing the truth. They like the fact that we are asking our viewers to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And they like the fact that we are here in
I was gonna say,
Israel
that's
reporting the
that's
truth.
the key.
Yeah.
The key has been, I think, always the fact that we're on the ground in the country, and it's very, I don't want to say nonchalant, it's firsthand and it's very personal. So I think people were looking for a face to connect to repeatedly, and they got that. And it's not just us; it's also several other YouTube channels that you've seen explode through the last couple of years exactly because of that.
And it's nice for other Jews to see that Christians support them and other people besides or Israelis or Jews in the diaspora support Israel.
I would argue that many Israelis, and I can't talk on behalf of Jews outside of the country because I don't encounter enough of them, but in Israel, my personal experience would say that the Jewish population in this country deeply understands the relationship to the Christian audience and Christian value set in a way that wasn't existent to this degree before October 7th. And the reason is because after the shocking events of October 7th, everyone around the world, Israelis assumed everyone would look and say, these guys are the victims, these guys are the villains. It took all of 72 hours for a bunch of countries, actually it was less than that, because we were sitting with an official in the foreign ministry for dinner this week. She said it took 5 hours
For everything to flip.
for everything to be flipped politically and be turned against as an event where Israel's attacking the Palestinians. And we realized after that happened, there's only one group of people around the world that care about us. Those who have family members in Israel, so the Jewish community and the Christian community. And everyone else, including people that should clearly say, Hamas evil, Israel good, they were unable to say that again and again. So I think a lot of people in this country realize, wait a minute, there's a common denominator that makes people understand and distinguish between good and evil, and that is called reading the Bible and understanding God's plan. And those who have it are with us, and those who don't have it, look at Hamas and say they seem to be the good guys. Look at the IDF sacrificing soldiers to protect the lives of the Palestinians and say, clearly they're the evil guys, which is so perverse in every way.
It's very annoying. And I think that one thing that they also appreciate is that we are going to all the places, like you said. So we've been reporting from Lebanon, from inside Hezbollah tunnels, from Syria, from the Gaza Strip, from all areas multiple times. And I think that's something that people are looking for, like authenticity, a face to put together with what they're hearing, and facts from the ground, and not just a report from a studio, even though this studio is very nice.
So let's talk honestly about the media, the obsession with Israel, fake news, and how you, as Jewish believers in Jesus, try to speak truth into the storm. So in the last year, it feels like every global crisis somehow gets tied back to Israel. And And we see conspiracy theories that claim Israel for things that happened decades ago. And every news cycle finds a way to put Israel or Gaza in the headline. And like you don't see Greta Thunberg sailing to other countries to help suffering there. So where's this obsession with Israel coming from? Why has Israel become the focal point in global journalism today, while wars in places like Ukraine or persecution of Christians in Nigeria get far less attention?
I don't think it's new. I think we forgot how substantial it was. I think we were oblivious to the deep-rooted anti-Semitism. We were oblivious to the fact that there's an ambient temperature of anti-Semitism that is always there, and it was just comfortable and it was non-PC for a while to talk about it. So we forgot that it existed, and I'd say specifically the Israeli government and the non-Israeli Jewish diaspora forgot how much people hate Judaism and how diabolical it is. I'd say to that, there's two big elements here. One is that it's always been the case that people ignore evil that happens around the world. That's never changed. And the second one is this last wave is just another in a very long series of it. There isn't, if you could look back 2,000 years, you'd be hard-pressed to find a single generation in which there wasn't some kind of anti-Jewish movement around the world. And the reason is because it's biblically founded, which is something Yael talks about, and I think has made a huge impact on our audience. It's biblically founded, it's spiritually based, but it's also intended at hiding the evil that other people carry out. And that's part of the story here. Just yesterday, we were talking about this in a conversation where one of the biggest trending films right now is a film called Palestine 1936. And it's a film that's trying to rewrite the narrative of what happened in the Great Arab Revolt of 36, where they tried to revolt against British mandate in what was called Palestine back then, or Israel, Palestina, depends who you ask. And they were crushed by the British, and they try to spin the story as if the Jews were to blame for that whole story. This film is trending. It's got 100% Rotten Tomatoes rating right now, and it just shows you that the story never goes away. And really, when you boil it down, it comes back to two things. One, people trying to prove that God isn't faithful and God doesn't stand with the people of Israel. And the fact that Israel is successful and victorious, it disproves that faith statement.
And alive. And the fact that we're still here with a country with the same language.
And the other part is what you exactly mentioned, Karen, which is that there's an underlying issue where evil people use Israel as something that is a smoke veil of what they're actually doing, of the massacres of Christians happening in Africa right now, of sex slaves under ISIS and then other places, of countless atrocities that became out. I mean, look, the Russian government kidnapped at least tens of thousands of Ukrainian citizens when the war broke out. Have we heard about this in the news recently? I haven't heard about it. I mean, and the list goes on and on and on and on. It's always Israel. So there's two, the spiritual, like Yael loves to say, and then the practical, which is if you can only talk about Israel, you can never talk about something else.
So this brings me to my next question that...
But Yael, I think, phrases the spiritual side of it beautifully.
Right. Listen, I think that it's a spiritual
Sorry,
war.
Karen.
That's the only explanation that I could say to myself, because we do not have gold. Israel does not have natural resources. Then there is no rational explanation why all these nations will want to invest so much money and efforts and manpower on launching attacks against us. So the only thing left is spiritual. They look at Israel and they see a fulfillment of God's promises to his people. And the fact that he is a living God to the people of Israel, to the Jewish people, means that he's the one true God to everybody around the world. And they just cannot stand that. So they want to destroy Israel and prove that our God is false. But they cannot do it. And on top of that, God is using this situation to prove that he's still performing biblical level miracles in Israel today. I mean, we see that we have won against 7 different fronts, multiple enemies. It's a miracle. It's not because the Iron Dome is so successful or the IDF people are so smart. I mean, we're very smart.
Although they are.
They're very smart.
Doesn't make sense.
It's a different level. I mean, we have also personal stories of rockets landing next to IDF soldiers and not exploding, and miracles on top of miracles. And just to talk about the resilience of the people of Israel in this war, I mean, there's one of my favorite stories, and then Mati can add to that also, is that after Iran launched 300 rockets and missiles and drones at Israel, on the WhatsApp groups, after the last rocket, it was stated, everybody, WhatsApp groups for the mothers that are sending their kids to school, it was saying, so it's over. Can we send our kids to kindergarten now? I mean, that's how fast everything shifts back to reality. So I think that it's been clear that this is a spiritual war, and the only way to fight a spiritual war is to pray, to have faith in God, and to unite against evil. And we've seen it clearly from day one. This is a war between good and evil.
Absolutely.
And there are clear sides. And I think that before October 7th was kind of blurry. You know, you had some gray areas. You didn't know what's right, what's wrong. Now it's very clear.
But the problem is just to the west.
Yes.
And that's we were the ones who
Exactly.
were wrong. For them, if you look at their messaging, you look at the jihadists, the anti-Western, the radical Muslims, they've been consistent and honest about their communication for decades. We chose to belittle what they said.
Exactly.
We chose to look down and oh no, just give them McDonald's, just give them jobs. That's all they want. They just want deals. That's not true. They are radicalized and radicalizing, both in past tense and in future tense, and present progressive. If we're in English,
You lost me now completely. It's been a few years since my English class.
no, I just had to touch back on it with my daughter. And it's happening in real time.
Simple is the best.
Yeah. And it's happening in real time. And they say openly, time and time again, we want to bring down everything you believe in. We want to kill you all. We want to take away what you have. And we look at them and say, no, that's anti-Muslim to say this. I'm not saying that. They're saying those things time and time again. And we chose to ignore them. For once, we were woken up because we had no choice because they kicked down the door and murdered 1,200 Israelis on the 7th of October.
You had to react.
You had to believe them. And they said, we came to kill you. We came to rape you. We came to destroy your way of life. And they did it.
Yeah.
So let's believe them for once. When the Iranians say all our country for 50 plus years is geared towards the destruction of everything you believe in, let's believe them.
Yeah,
believe
death
them.
to America, death to
Don't take it
Israel.
lightly.
Big Satan, small Satan. That's what they've been saying
Yeah.
for many, many, many years. I mean, let's believe them.
Yes.
I mean, they've proven that they're right. And what we're seeing now in the United States, in Europe, is that their plan is more than like a 3-year plan. They're planning 100 years in advance to infiltrate all the education system in the United States of America, the political systems, the culture, the society systems. And we've seen that, at least now, with the administration of the United States, somebody is beginning to wake up to see the dangers of the Muslim Brotherhood. And also here in Israel.
It's very scary. I was going to say before, to what Matty said, to the next question, that do you think the media genuinely cares about the suffering in Gaza?
No.
Or is it just a tool, an excuse to go against Israel?
They don't.
Yeah, you have a very clear proof of that is when the ceasefire was signed, meaning that Israel is no longer in charge of distributing the food or is no longer active fighting in the Gaza Strip. The headlines shifted to something completely different. Does it mean that the suffering in the Gaza Strip ended? Does it mean that the Palestinians have an amazing lives now?
It
It
escalated.
escalated. First of all, Hamas fired at civilian Palestinians the first day of the ceasefire. It wasn't reported all over the news. Imagine if an IDF soldier would do the same that the Hamas terrorists did to the Palestinians. It would have been on the front pages of every newspaper. But no Jews, no news.
If they genuinely cared about the people in Gaza, they would have reported all the stuff that Hamas is doing to the
Yeah,
civilians.
exactly. Listen, the Palestinians are still suffering in Gaza now. They are living in shacks, in made tents. They're still not receiving the amount of food. Hamas is now taking taxes on the humanitarian aid that is delivered to them by the United Nations and the international aid organizations. This is what's happening now on the ground. Do you hear about it in international news? All you hear is that Israel is shutting the gate for a few hours, not allowing a few trucks to enter, when there is like double the amount of food that each Palestinian needs to receive for a day. I mean, for many, many months now. And even the Hamas terrorists are shooting videos in the tunnels of them eating and having a lot of humanitarian aid food underneath the ground. So that's the situation.
I think the best example was BBC and it was another big British outlet, The Guardian. The Guardian, when allegedly Ashara's forces were in their vehicles on the way to commit genocide against the Jews in the Golan Heights.
Yeah, Asweda.
In Asweda. And they were in their vehicles on the way. And the Israeli Air Force goes and bombs some of the bridges that were connecting into that region and sends a warning by bombing one of the command centers inside inside Syria, saying, "If you don't stop, we're gonna bomb you."
This is a good
the
one.
Headlines
I remember.
in these huge outlets, the headlines say, "Israel strikes in Syria," and then the more accurate headline said, "Israel strikes Syrian army command centers in Syria." And you had to read to the second paragraph to understand that we were actively stopping a genocide from taking place in another country. And the list goes on and on and on. And you look at that and you said, "You are such horrific humans."
You can't
Like
even make
how?
that.
How did you get this so wrong?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's not,
Who
it's
taught
intentional.
You, who taught you journalism? You know, it's like it's crazy.
No, and then what do you hear behind the scenes? We think, oh, they're just a little biased, but they still care.
No,
They don't. And it's systematic, and it's from the top. And these pieces of information come out bit by bit, where you hear the system, the editorial system in those outlets. They forbid people from talking about at all what's happening here. I know this from other sources, that they censor news that comes out of Israel from their own journalists, and the journalist could write a fair report that says IDF retaliates or IDF protects or something that's balanced, and his editor in the UK or his editor in New York or his editor in countless other countries in Europe, he'll change the headline and make it an anti-Israel headline. Why? Because it works, because it fits with their agenda, because it gets them clicks. Again, it's so biased, it's so twisted. They don't care about the suffering. I want to say one more thing. Is I've studied this topic of the Israel-Palestinian conflict, etc., for decades, and I think most Israelis, Yair and myself included, we grew up with this expectation that you could resolve these things. That if you did the right thing, the other side would, come to terms. The story here is much bigger than that. The story here is that there are other people around the world. Islamic Jihad and the radical movements are part of that, but also anti-Israel and anti-West movements within the left around the world are part of that too, who use the Palestinian cause as and I'll say this directly, as patsies to be used against Israel. And
Patsies?
Fire.
Fire?
Okay. They're the comfortable victims. They're used as the ones who take the worst element of the whole conflict, and they perpetuate their suffering, and they perpetuate their victimhood, and they perpetuate the mindset that leaves them in that situation and prevent things from ever changing. Which is why you have a population that after several generations is still considered to be a refugee, which is why there's no solution to this conflict. Meanwhile, around the world, countless conflicts that are of much greater levels of violence and religious war and amount of people and stuff like that, they've been resolved over the years. Not 100%, but more than has happened here. So there is no, again, we're living in this reality where the eyes of the world are aimed at Israel, and evil forces that hate Israel, that hate the Bible, that hate God's work, use every lie, every deception, and every vile act against the Palestinians, and it really is against the Palestinians, to perpetuate this situation. That's where we're living. And people should be awake to that, should realize what's really happening here, and need to speak up against it. This isn't a situation where and I used to think this before October 7th, it's in the gray area, they have their perspective, we have our perspective. No, they're evil, and they side with evil, and we're good, and we do our best to do what's good. Those are very different perspectives on the world, very different courses of action on a military, political, and financial level.
So this is not just a war between Israel and the Palestinians. If it will not stop here, it is already going into Europe, it's already going into the United States. So it either stop here. Either you stand with Israel against this evil, or you're going to fight it alone.
There's one more thing. People mistakenly think that it's Islam fighting for Islam. They're saying we want representation, we want equality, we want et cetera, we want freedoms. It's not what it is. It's not what it is. It's Islamic individuals and Islamic movements fighting against Christianity and Judaism. It's not pro-Islam, it's anti-something else. And the explanation to this, and the easy proof of that is the fact that when ISIS was plowing through multiple Muslim countries, you didn't see a single demonstration in the West and by the Muslim communities against it. What you did see was them volunteering to go and fight and buy,
ISIS fighters from Europe going
European Muslims going in, and European Christians, by the way, going and fighting on behalf of ISIS. You didn't see any of them saying, this is horrific, marching against the embassies, stop the massacre, stop the killings that's taking place. You didn't see any of that. All you saw was time and time again, these people fighting against Western values. If it's a cartoon in a newspaper, let's burn down the newspaper. But it's never when there's an entire village that's killed of other Muslims. They never speak on behalf of it. So it's not ever an issue of
in the defense of the Muslims.
It's not for Islam. It's against other people.
Yeah.
And we need to be clear about that.
Yeah, so they don't care about their own lives, their people's lives, and we've seen that in the Gaza Strip.
Yeah.
Hamas doesn't care about the Palestinian people and their lives. They are sending their children to the IDF positions to be spies and also to be shot if they get too close. And they do that intentionally because they rather harm Israel than save the lives of their own people. Right now in Israel, a lot of parents are standing in the kitchen in the morning, staring at the lunchbox and doing math. Not nutrition math, money math. A new study by Leket Israel and the Midgam Institute found that 35% of parents are cutting foods from their kids' school snacks because it's too expensive. 1 in 3 say cost is the main thing deciding what goes in the sandwich. And 20% have basically given up on adding healthy items at all because fruits and vegetables have become a luxury. Most families aren't asking, is this balance? They're asking, will my kid be full enough to get through the day? That's why Leket matters so much. Kids get fun, hands-on nutrition lessons at school, learning what healthy eating looks like. But it doesn't stop there. Every 2 weeks, their families receive boxes of fresh fruits and vegetables rescued from Israeli farmers. Real produce that they couldn't always afford otherwise. So kids don't just learn about healthy food, they actually get to eat it. Parents say it changes everything. Kids who once pushed veggies away suddenly want to eat them. They come home proud, excited, teaching their families what they learned. This is how we make sure that a child's lunchbox isn't shaped by poverty or pressure, but by care and dignity. So if you want to be part of that, it's simple. Go to feedisraelikids.org. Again, that's feedisraelikids.org. Help a child open their lunchbox tomorrow and find something good inside it.
Can I take this a different direction? Because
Yeah.
you're sitting here and we're sitting in the studio of the government press office. And I want to say this,
Israel.
Of Israel.
As you can see, the flag. For those of you, this is the flag of Israel. If
And
it's your first time.
and I say this because everything Yair and I are saying is not to bring us down and to feel depressed and hopeless about what we're doing. There still is enormous value in spreading the truth. And a lot of what La'am, I wish we had the English GPO, the English logos. If we had that, to say that there is a huge value in working as hard as you guys do and others do too in this country, to work with international media, to change the opinions of people, to show them the truth time and time again, and give them the choice repeatedly on a daily and hourly basis of choosing to tell the truth or to lie.
And to come to Israel to
Yes.
see it for yourself.
No, because I mean, there's a massive, group of journalists that reside within Israel and cover what happens here. It's very disproportionate compared to what happens in the world. So there's huge value in doing that. Even though people will be anti-Semitic, even though the world is against us, it doesn't matter. We still need to work day in, day out to spread the truth about what's happening here in the country.
Definitely. And both of you are Jews who believe in Jesus and follow
Yes.
the New Testament. And you speak to a lot
Testament.
And
Testament.
the Old Testament.
And the Old Testament. Yeah.
And you speak to a lot of Christian audiences.
Yeah.
How do you explain the difference between anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism? Or is there a difference at all?
I have
a good question.
I have a very powerful line I heard recently. This isn't mine, and I wish I could remember who said it. The difference is claiming that it's anti-Zionism and not anti-Semitism is saying I'm okay with you as long as you don't have a home, which is a really funny way to think about it. It's like I have nothing against you, but the minute you have a home, I hate you. So as long as you're homeless and weak and a victim,
You're okay with me.
I'm okay with you. But the minute you have a home, now you're no longer, I'm no longer okay with you and I hate you. But it's not about who you are. It's just because you have a home. And it's bizarre. What does it mean to be a Jew? Judaism, all of it is, biblically speaking, historically speaking, narrative-wise, all of it is a yearning to Zion. And now that we have it, oh no, it's not anti-Jewish. It's just anti-Zionism.
And there's
It's-
everything that you stand for.
Exactly.
I don't hate you. Just everything that you
I don't
believe,
mind you,
stand
just
for.
hate Zionists.
Yeah.
No, I just hate you when you have a country and you're not homeless. So I think it's a joke. It's just a way of dressing up what always has been underlying anti-Semitism that exists globally. It's never gone away. And what you see now in the chants of the from the river to the sea, in the countless people that, like this horde of zombies chant things that they know nothing about. What it is deep-bedded anti-Semitism that they're not even aware that they've culturally absorbed within their communities. And there's a lot of communities in North America that have fallen victim to it, European countries that have fallen victim to it, countries that have succumbed to the threat and the fear of Islam and radical Islamists that succumb into that. That's what it really is. It's the same thing exactly. I want to say just one last thing though. It's okay to criticize Israel. And people mistake
Definitely.
those two conversations.
Yeah.
It's okay to love a people and still say, I'm not 100% with what you did there. But that's not anti-Semitism.
Well,
And
you do that with your family members,
Yeah.
with your children.
You do it with the people you care
You do
about.
it with people you love.
Yeah.
I mean, it's completely okay.
And you see that, for instance, in the relationship between Israel and the United States,
Mm-hmm.
where the relationship can say, we're homies. We're together in this. We're fighting together. I'm with you. You're with me. You give me weapons. I give you technology. We have a deep relationship. And still the governments reserve the right to criticize each other and say, look, we want to be honest. We're not 100% aligned on this topic. He has his political interest. I have mine. And you can still maintain a friendship in that sense. That is what real relationships are. That's real care. That's real diplomacy in the real gentleman type of way of doing it. That's where you see it.
Yeah, I think it's just an evolution of anti-Semitism. You had anti-Semitism, then you had anti-Israel, and now it's anti-Zionism. And I think that the word Zionism is kind of hard for people to understand what it means, so it's easier to make it into a bad word.
Yeah.
Whereas to say that, Jews are bad is something that's became like a taboo or something. I'm not
It's just a cover-up.
I don't want to be that. But Zionism, Zionism. What is Zionism? Maybe they do want to take over the world. Maybe they do control all the banks and all the movies and all the everything. And it's easier to connect with something that you don't understand the meaning, which maybe Matti can just explain the meaning of Zionism for us.
So Zionism is, do I really need to explain? So
I think so.
Zionism is the yearning to Zion. It's the desire of the Jewish people to have a home like every other nation, both as a national movement and as a religious entity, and as a 4,000 or 6,000 year old, depends how you count, old nation, that this has and will be always their home. I want to add one last thing. The trend of anti-Semitism is linked into anti-Zionism or anti-Israel, or I'm just criticizing everything Israel does. I'm okay with other Jews as long as they're silent and victims. Is if you look at the recent polls that have been done globally as to the trends of anti-Semitism, they're horrific. The world is becoming a more and more increasingly anti-Semitic place. It's at the point now where about half the adult population of the world. Have you seen these researchers?
No.
So last year, it's the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League. They do a 10-year research paper every 10 years, and they poll. It was over 100,000 people in this last piece, and basically it's a great representation of the global population. And there's an enormous uptick in anti-Semitic opinions. And they ask it in a very clever way. They don't say, "Are you a bigot?" They don't say, "Do you hate Jews?" They ask these narratives. Do you think Jews control the global economy? Do you think Jews do this and that? And the uptick is unbelievable, especially strong in anti-Semitic countries, certain Eastern European countries, etc., where it's in the 70+% percentile of the population. But also, interestingly, in Asian countries that don't have a Christian background, don't have an anti-Semitic root.
It's also rooted there.
It's becoming more and more popular there.
Really?
But there, the researchers say we have a bit of an asterisk on this whole conversation, where we're not sure it's actually negative.
Maybe they're like they want to be like the
listen,
they control the banks.
So,
it's a good thing.
we have
Maybe like
Asian
that.
clients and we have Asian friends,
Yeah.
and they'll say in sermons and stuff like that, well, the Jews, they know about money, and it's not in a negative sense.
Anti-Semitic
It's not
remark.
anti-Semitic. It's like, let's be like them. The God's blessed them. Let's be like them. That they look at that. But the other part of it is there are people that are anti-Semitic that don't know they're anti-Semitic. It's one thing to say, here's my foundation for this, therefore I hate them. There's a lot of people that don't realize they're anti-Semitic. There are Holocaust deniers who don't know what the Holocaust is.
Exactly.
And that's even more terrifying because they're both ignorant about the topic and hold very strong opinions. That's the most dangerous kind of person.
Exactly.
It's also become like politically correct now to be anti-Zionist. So it's like almost politically correct to be anti-Semitic because it's just a cover-up.
I think people who used to feel shy about being anti-Semitic,
Now they're not.
and then
Yeah.
this rise of it's the rise of Islam, the rise of strong leftist, and also the rise of the pendulum movement to that, which is extreme leftist. Now all these people sort of converge to one like thought process, which is let's blame the Jews for everything that happens. And you see that 5-6 years ago, and the Jews will not replace us chants in where was it, Charleston, in the U.S. in those riots. Charleston, North Carolina, where was it taking place? Charleston. And you see it in European capitals, you see it in the US now in the post October 7th chants. These thoughts of, of anti-Jewish, anti-Zionist, anti-Semitic, where now they just feel comfortable to say it. Well, Jews are the enemy, clearly, evidently. It's obvious to everyone now.
Yeah.
They just lost every element of shame about it.
And also now what we're seeing is that the right side of the American politics is also accusing the Jews, meaning the Bible-believing Christians of the so-called conservative side are also blaming Israel for everything that's happening and trying to create, separation between the church and the Christian Zionism, basically separate the Bible-believing Christians from Israel, which they are our biggest supporters. So this is, I think, a very, very dangerous
Terrifying
trend.
trend.
And what's the most dangerous about it is that it has no basis in the Bible. So they are claiming to be Christians, but they don't base any of their claims on the Bible, which is supposed to be the one ground that all of us agree on. Especially Bible-believing Christians and Jews who believe the Bible. So
Scary.
it's very scary, yeah.
And you're not just a reporter, but you actually served in the IDF and now in the war in Gaza and in Lebanon. And you've put your life on the line for your country and with a camera in your hand. And how did it feel to see the media reporting the opposite of what you saw and experienced in real life? Was it frustrating? Was it painful?
So it was really, really shocking at first because both Mati and I got called on October 7th to fight on different borders. I was called to the border with Lebanon and Mati was called to Judea and Samaria. And we knew what happened. We saw the rockets coming above us. We ran to the bomb shelters with our children. We saw the reports of the Israeli kidnapped babies, kids, young adults, women, children, and the elderly into the Gaza Strip. And we were just putting the uniform on and going to defend the country. And while everything was so clear to us, we heard that around the world, the media is reporting the exact opposite.
Yeah.
So first of all, it was, like, as I said, it was shocking. I couldn't believe that the world is this bias against Israel. But then, as I said, I realized it's a spiritual war. It's the only explanation. And at that moment, we decided together with Tomer and our team to start reporting what we had. We had a phone, cell phone, and we reported from the front lines every day. First of all, it was like our feelings, what we're going through, the reason that we are fighting this war, which is to defend our children, my wife, my kids, my neighborhood, my family. And then it's because they launched an attack against us and we just want to live here. So it was very important for us to share that fact, the reason why we are fighting this war, the fact that they launched an attack against us, the fact that we had a ceasefire on October 6th. It ended on October 7th when Hamas entered Israel, kidnapped, and launched an attack against us. So it was very important to share the basics and then to encourage people to pray for the situation.
Mm-hmm. And once a false claim about Israel goes viral globally, it feels almost impossible to correct it.
Yeah.
From your experience, how hard is it to fight fake news once it spreads? And can you give me an example from your own work where a lie went out and you try to push back?
So I think it's very, very, very hard to share the truth, and it's very easy to share lies. Because sharing lies, you can just invent a narrative and then say it a million times, and then people will believe it. Because especially in our days with social media, TikTok, and all the, fast videos, you have like a minute to learn about a subject, and then you create and base your opinion on that minute that you watch of a video, or whatever it is. But in order to share the truth, you need to say, stop, let's research this. the IDF needs to investigate the incident of what happened. And then that takes time. You need to interview people, you need to bring the footage. And by the time you issue a response, then it's already too late because it's yesterday news. And all the headlines already said the lie because they want the headlines. They want the extreme stuff. They want to see the fact that like Israel is striking in Syria, or Israel and the IDF struck a hospital in the Gaza Strip. And then after 2 days of investigation, you find out that it was a rocket that was launched by Hamas and malfunctioned and then ended up landing on the hospital itself. But that takes time to find out, and then it ends up at the last page of the newspaper or maybe at a 5-minute end piece on the news. So it's very, very hard, but we're trying to do our best. That's why we work around the clock. Tomer here, our editor-in-chief, he's waking up every day at like 4 or something like that. And then he writes the report. And then we have a big team that edits everything so that when it's 5 p.m. in the US, they can open the news after work and receive the fresh updates of what happened in Israel. And they get it even before CNN gives them the updates because we are here on the ground and reporting everything. And we are very detailed about the facts, about what's happening. And we will work closely with the IDF on getting the facts straight from the field.
Mm-hmm. And many young journalists today feel they have to take a side and be activists and not necessarily reporters. Do you think that journalists today feel pressure to take sides rather than report impartially? And do you think some of them are actually scared to be pro-Israel because of their editors or their audience?
What a great question. I think the answer is yes to all of them. One, journalism has become far more shallow and very biased. And there's 50 years of a trend there that have to do with who actually owns journalistic outlets and news outlets, and how a small elite group of billionaires control much of the global news. That is true, and there's a lot of content out there on that topic. But there's another part, which is the beauty of social media is that news travels fast, and the detriment of social media is that news travels fast, and there's no time for fact checking. Example is, in the past, if someone wrote a story, let's say in a newspaper does an investigative journalism piece on a corrupt government minister, they investigate for 3 months, they have 4 people that work on it, they fact check, they're about to run it to the press, and they call the government office and they say, it's Thursday or it's Wednesday night, we're running a story, it's hitting the press Thursday at midnight, and it's going to say that Minister so-and-so is part of a large corruption ring, give us your response. And they can say, nothing, you're right, or they can lie. They can go to the courts and say they're about to run a libel piece against us, put out a gag order on this piece. And if it's a democratic country, they'll actually examine it or not. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, like Yael gave an example, the expression is a lie travels around the world 3 times before the truth has had breakfast. And really what happens is people spread a lie, it travels around. Many times these lies are intentional. They cite sources that are known to be, the Gaza Health Ministry. Come on, they're Hamas. They're Hamas beacon and Hamas outlet. Yeah. They traditionally and repeatedly lie. People spread the news. 3 days later, they put on some hidden link within their website a response that says a correction. The correction doesn't say correction. It says update on so-and-so piece, and it says, without actually stating any responsibility, this piece that we did on this topic wasn't up to our journalistic standards, which is a very nice and sugar-coated way of saying we openly lied and did so intentionally, and we're not planning to take any responsibility for it. And that's really the problem. And the only solution for that is for audiences not to be sheep. Mm-hmm. That's the only solution. There is no way that you can stop TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and 100 different outlets from spreading lies and half-truths. There is no way to do that. The only way is for people to be grounded and for people to have true information, and for 18-year-olds and 16-year-olds and 20-year-olds not to think that they know everything about what happens in the world, as I did when I was that age. And it's a repeated trend throughout human history.
But you know everything about the world, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So I mean, that's
on
only
TikTok.
That's only way to stop it. And I'd say one more thing to answer your question, which is people feel like they have to take sides, and I think that's the wrong way to go about it. I'm 100% okay with someone who's a Palestinian journalist who only writes about suffering in the Palestinian side. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging the suffering of the Palestinians. There's nothing wrong about acknowledging the fact that the people in Gaza have had a really rough couple years. Nothing wrong with that. They deserve all the mercy, all the compassion, and all the aid that those people can get. But that's fine. He can be a journalist on the topic, and he will be 100% truthful and honest if what he says is these people are suffering. But don't lie about the context.
Exactly.
Don't lie about the big story.
Yeah.
And I'd say it also goes to the other side. I don't want to call, I'm not one side or the other of the map, but I'd say someone who's Zionist and pro-Israeli and Bible reading doesn't have to have any hesitation to say openly, I care deeply about the suffering of the Palestinian people, but not just them. I care deeply also about all the suffering. I care about the Ukrainians who are having their country blitzed by the Russians. I was about to say the Germans.
The word blitz connects you to Germany, right?
Yeah, by the Russians time and time again. I care deeply about, you see the images coming out of Africa, people being massacred in tribal wars that are Islam on Christianity or Islam on Islam. And you should be moved to tears with every expression of human suffering. That should be the truth, but you need to tell the truth. And you should be able to be honest about it. And the problem really is that many outlets now have an agenda and they have a party line and they follow that party line. By the way, that applies also to his only pro-Israeli outlets. In the pro-Israeli side, including Israeli journalism, there should be a healthy space for people to criticize and to fact check what is said. There needs to be one. There needs to be that. And I want to say this: the difference is the IDF, and I know this because we work with them closely, and for me, it's almost a family, almost a family matter. My young brother is the international spokesperson.
Wow.
And you look at it, the IDF thoroughly investigates, and we acknowledge that there's human failure within the IDF, and we don't necessarily take every soldier at their word. They go and investigate directly every claim, every organization, every phone call made by the BBC or CNN that says, did you strike against a convoy of so-and-so? They go and fact check it all the way. And if someone committed a crime, he's tried for it. He's removed from his position. And I know many of these stories personally. I know this to be a fact. That doesn't happen on the other side. No one pays a price for lying. No one pays a price for violating whatever law they're supposed to be upholding.
Well, hopefully the BBC will pay a price for lying because Donald Trump is threatening to sue them.
Good.
So
I saw that.
You saw that? So
Yes.
maybe they will because...
I think they edited his video
Exactly.
that made it. I can't remember the context, but I saw that.
made it look made it look very militant in
Yes.
in his
that
wordings.
he supported violence or
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah, and
exactly. And he didn't like that
It's not
very
only-
much.
yeah.
So it's nice to see that
We're not
somebody is
alone.
paying the price. And after that, I think that there were reports of heads of the BBC resigning, and you see how deep it goes to the top level of this organization.
Yeah, it's intentional.
Yeah,
I think I saw a video of your brother actually on my TikTok of
Very possibly.
yeah.
it looks
Got
like
a-
him, right? Exactly.
He's nicer and better. Yeah.
So today we don't only deal with biased headlines, but we also deal with AI generated images and videos. And
that's
Hamas and other terror groups have already started using AI for propaganda.
Yeah.
So how does a journalist in 2025 navigate what's true and what's fake? And are you personally worried about a world where we can't tell the difference between AI and reality? Because I already get confused when I see some...
No, listen, I think
videos.
that technology always has good sides and bad sides, and people are always afraid of new technologies that are coming out, think that this will be the end of us. But I think that humankind has always the upper hand, and if you're not afraid of something, you can use it to do good in everything that you're doing. Let's say AI, okay? So we're translating, our team is translating our videos into French and into Portuguese. So sometimes in the street, people come to me and start speaking to me in these languages, but I have no clue how to speak these languages. But it's so good that they think that I actually speak them.
Yeah.
So that's a good way because
Can
that
use it
way,
for the good.
yeah, we are reaching the French-speaking audience as well, and the Portuguese-speaking audience, and hopefully many more audiences around the world with what's happening in Israel. So that's a good way to use it. And then on the other hand, you have Hamas terrorists, also Iranian, the Ayatollah regime, using AI to show that they actually downed Israeli planes in the 12-day war between Israel and Iran. So we've seen all these planes that Israel doesn't have, but they're down next to Iranian flags, and they're saying, yeah, we took out this plane to increase their internal morale. And also in the Gaza Strip, AI was used to show the suffering of Palestinians, Palestinian kids starving, and some of it was used with AI, some of it was used with pictures of kids that actually have a pre-existing condition, and some of them were even treated by Israel or allowed transfer to other hospitals outside of the Gaza Strip by Israel, and then these images were used against us. So it's very hard, but like everything, I think that if the technology for fake news grows, there will be also technology for making sure that it's accurate or not as well. But in everything, you need to understand and to study more than just a minute and a half of what's happening in every situation before you make your opinion. That's one thing. And then if you take it to the spiritual level, you need all the help that you can get from God. So pray about stuff. I mean, ask God to give you wisdom to discern what's good, what's bad, what's true, and what's a lie.
I'd say there's another element here, which is part of the reason that AI is effective at persuading people, is the fact that people are easily persuaded. In essence, if I say, look at this picture, look at the picture, and that's enough to like send you on this, emotional roller coaster. Oh no, this happened. Blah, 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 blah. It's like, wait, be grounded in facts for just 1 second. Actually fact check. Look at the sources. And the problem is so many people, it takes one TikToker or one, Instagram or one influencer to just say, so-and-so happened. I know it. And the government's lying to you about it. And they go on this rage and it never stops. And, find out months later, they've allowed their entire worldview to be shaped by it. Meanwhile, this guy made it up like 20 seconds before he started rolling.
Yeah, said something like, I heard an IDF soldier saying that the IDF is doing terrible things to the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Boom. Okay, so it's now proof, it's facts, it goes viral. And that shapes the reality. It might be true, it might be false, but it doesn't mean that Israel and the IDF as a nation is acting wrongly. So
no, and that's exactly the point. Is that when people are so easily triggered by everything that they see, it's very easy for lies to work.
Exactly.
And
if you already are on the edge to one side, then if somebody just gives you a little bit of a push, then you can go all out.
But it goes both directions. Because if someone said I'm only pro-Israel, let's take their side. I'll play devil's advocate for a second. They're only pro-Israel and they only care about Israel, and you show them a picture. Look, the IDF bombed these homes, and a Palestinian kid was killed in the Gaza Strip. If their immediate response is this couldn't possibly be true, that's also wrong. They should be able to respond calmly and say, okay, let's investigate. Where did this come from? What happened? Let's stay with the story for just a second and give time for their worldview to be shaped. Meanwhile, if and this goes both ways, if they don't have any patience in checking anything and everything is a trigger one way or another, and you explode emotionally about everything that you see, that's the problem. AI does. You don't need AI. You can just use. What should they do? Use a picture from the war in Yemen from 7 years ago,
20 years ago,
and it's enough to trigger people. Use a story of someone who's not even part of this conflict, and then say, look, here's evidence, and it's still enough for people because they don't care. They don't care about the facts. They just care about their emotions and being triggered and et cetera, et cetera. You have to be grounded. You have to be more solid. You have to be slower to respond. You have to have compassion to the other side. We need to be more holistic in the way we approach the world.
Yeah, and in general, I think that there's a separation between the personal level of interaction. I mean, let's say a person is suffering. We should all, care about him, especially on a personal level. This is one of the core values of Judaism and Christianity, to care about our neighbors, to care about each other, to care about mankind. But there is a difference between caring about the individual and acting as a nation. It's also differentiated in the Bible. I mean, there are commandments that people of Israel were told to go and take control of that territory and to defend ourselves and to act to conquer the land and stuff like that as a nation. But there are also commandments to take care of the poor, of the foreigner, of the slaves, and everybody as a personal level. So there's two different things, and I think that the world today, especially the West, got that mixed up. So there is an important need to take care of those that are suffering on a personal level, and there is also a need to act as a nation for the greater good.
Yes.
And it's important to not mix these two. Because in any nation you have one person suffering, but that doesn't mean that the entire country is intentionally heading that direction to harm the small people or the vulnerable people.
And I want to go back to something you said earlier about how many popular Christian or conservative influencers are now saying negative things about Israel. So how, as a Christian network, do you attract believers to listen to you when the other voice they admire are saying the exact opposite about Israel? And like someone like me that's 19 and is on TikTok, on social media, and we used to see people like Charlie Kirk who were supporters of Israel, and now it's a lot of influencers who are against Israel. How do you attract people to listen to you and not listen to other influencers?
Well, first of all, it's a very tough battle. I mean, first of all, we just need to go out and create more content and share our truth and to share our side and to equip those Bible-believing Christians that maybe do not have the foundational knowledge to battle these confident podcasters with their very eloquent terms on their shows, and give them, the facts, the truth. But all in all, I think that if it's not based on the Bible, then something is wrong there. I mean, if you're a Christian and you're listening to all these voices and it's not based on the Bible, then something is off. And I think that this is something that a Christian who's going to church should not trust his pastor with everything that he believes in and everything that he says. He should take the sermon, go back home, open the Bible, pray about it, see what God is making him feel and what the word of the Lord is telling him to do with this information that the pastor told him. It's the same thing with podcasters, same thing with spiritual leaders. I mean, you have to have a personal connection with God and to understand the facts on the ground.
Definitely. Do you have anything to add?
Complicated stuff.
Right?
No, it
Not easy.
really is such complicated issues. And it really is. I've tried to think about this in the past. How do you reach people when you have like these young individuals around the world? And I think many of them come from this positive motivation. And then when you think about like, where are they going to be able to find balanced information? It's so difficult. It's so difficult to do it in this echo chamber of opinions and social media. And social media and its algorithm feeds you similar opinions or the opinions of your friends and stuff like that. You really have to be a deep person to be able to find the truth in these different things. And I think when it comes to the question you asked about faith, there's a trend. And the trend, sadly, is often missed by people, where, one, we don't need to discredit everything that these people say. We need to listen to their criticism because some of it comes from an interesting and rarely from a valid place, but at least it's good to understand where they're coming from. It has to do with an isolationist trend within conservatism in North America. Not the first or second time this has happened. They did it before World War II. They did it also before that. There is a mindset which is part of like the American like zeitgeist, which is we want to be alone and we don't want to be involved or pulled into international politics. Trump is a counter movement to that almost because he's very involved in what's happening around the world as a force of good. That's one thing to understand, that there's a political draw behind it. The second thing is, again, it goes back to social media. Some of these people are being heavily influenced by people backing them and promoting them. They make a flip. It's or ideological influence in certain cases.
Or financial.
Or financial, or both. And the financial goes two ways. One, they might have someone backing them. Qatar is a great example, where they're incentivized directly or indirectly to work on behalf of them. And I don't want to make any names to avoid lawsuits. And there's another aspect, which is social media, in its essence, it compensates you and it rewards you for saying sensationalist things. No one gets many likes and views for saying, guys, this is a complex story. It's going to take me 10 minutes to unpack. Everyone gets incentivized when they say, the Mossad killed Charlie Kirk. That's not the case, but people said it. And I imagine this conversation when Candace Owens, she started with, Charlie was my friend. I'm so sorry about what happened. Then she did like 5 lives back to back, day after day. And she had, we're talking astronomical and groundbreaking numbers of people watching these lives, in the tens of millions watching these lives broadcasts and saying, or it was millions and then it became many millions. And again, I know how much money you make from those kind of things. It's a lot of money. And so the digital team is like, Candace, we need to do this.
Again,
when you keep saying it, it's bringing us the views. It doesn't even have to do with values at that point. It's just about the way the system is set up. problematic world that we're living in.
No,
And
not
we
easy answer.
No, the only solution is call people to depth, both spiritually and as far as education and knowledge. Don't rely on a single source,
Yeah.
and don't be a baby. Don't allow a single piece of information to completely shape your worldview.
Exactly.
You know, you have to be less explosive. You have to be less responsive. You have to be grounded and not this little child that, you know, like every new bit of information makes you forget about everything you knew previously.
Exactly.
So Matty, Yair, thank you.
Thank you.
We've talked about media bias, fake news, AR, and the spiritual battle around truth and lies. But before we finish, I want to ask for two things. First, if you're watching this and you care about truth from Israel, follow TBN Israel, share these programs with your friends, and don't let the algorithms decide what you believe. And second, Yair, would you close us in a prayer?
Sure. So, if you want to join me in prayer, I'm going to pray for wisdom first of all. So, our Father in heaven, please give wisdom to our leaders, give wisdom to us, help us look, search for the truth, know what's happening on the ground so that we'll know how to act in response to all these fake news that we are seeing. And we are praying for defensive of our IDF soldiers, for protection, whereas they are fighting in Syria, Lebanon, Judea and Samaria, the Gaza Strip, and also against attacks from Yemen and Iran. Lots of fronts, but we know that you are in control. As you brought us back to this land, we pray that you will keep us safe here and you're not done with the people of Israel. We pray that you will change the hearts of our enemies, that instead of launching attacks against Israel, we'll start loving on the Jewish people. You can make that happen. And we pray for the peace of Jerusalem in the name of Yeshua. Shem Yeshua Mashiach. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN Israel today online at tbn.org/Israel. Thank you.